can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Punch Out Boxing's famous Ra Hokum as we are here in final prediction mode once again. Ra, as I've said previously on other videos, it's the biggest weekend of boxing I think I've ever seen in terms of how many fights we've got, the standard of the fights we've got, the cards we've got, and we're here to discuss the big one. It's one of the biggest fights I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's two superstars, it's pound for pound greats, it's the elite of the elite going up against each other. It's Canelo against Terence Bud Crawford. Rah, we're going to jump straight into this. How do you see this fight finishing?
I haven't changed my mind at all since Bud Crawford started asking for it. When I saw how confident he was in being able to win the fight, um, I was that confident because I've been that big a believer in his skill set. All of these images that are coming out about showing the respective sizes and what have you. I don't read much into that at all. I don't think the size is and power difference is as significant. I don't think it's any more significant than, say, the difference between Duran and Hagler or Duran and Iran Barkley. I think that the dimensions of Canelo as a super middleweight just are uniquely suitable for a smaller fighter with
Mhm.
sufficient skill set to be able to compete with. And Crawford's that man with the sufficient skill set, in my opinion. So I am sticking to my prediction. I think Bud Crawford will win by split or majority decision because there will, of course, be at least one judge that tries to do Canelo a favor on the scorecards.
As always, not one to mince your words, are you, Ra? I'm going to agree that Terence Crawford wins, but I'm going to disagree how. I've changed my mind on this fight about 475 times. However, my mind has been set for a good few weeks now that I think Crawford has got Canelo at the perfect time. He's got a declining conservative Canelo, and I think Crawford is going to make one of the biggest statements, not necessarily maybe in boxing history, but definitely over the last decade or so, and he's going to stop Canelo very late on in the fight. Round round 10, around that mark, 10, 11. I think, like you said, I think he's got the superior skill set. It's not the Canelo of old by any stretch of the imagination. Still a top elite level fighter, but I think Crawford is going to come into this and make a real statement. You know, as you said, Crawford's been wanting this fight for a long while. He's going to be coming into it with the highest of confidence, and I think he's going to make a real statement and stop Canelo late. So that's 2-0 for Crawford and two different methods. The first question I'm going to ask you based on this fight, Ra, do you think we see a rematch? And does that depend, does a potential rematch depend on who wins the fight and how?
Yes, I think that there could be a rematch if it's sufficiently controversial or close, or if we get a draw. Otherwise, I think the winner will want to go away and protect that status. If Canelo wins, I don't think he has much to gain in terms of legacy, unless the Saudis and Riyadh season offer him a shed load of money to do it again. And if Bud Crawford wins, I think he won't want to keep pushing the envelope. And also as well, it's likely to be so punishing
Hmm.
for both men at this point in their careers. Obviously, Bud's 38, Canelo is what, 34 or 35, but in boxing years, he's a lot
He's about
older, people
60.
point out, isn't he? So at this point in their careers, I don't think the winner will want to go through another punishing fight of that level. So I think they'll want to go away, protect that win, much like Sugar Ray Leonard did with Marvin Hagler. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't think a rematch is likely.
Yeah, I agree with yourself. I think. Should Crawford lose, I think he'll just say he dared to be great. Canelo was too big, etc. However, the way Canelo not necessarily dealt with, but following the Bivol loss, should Crawford win, I think we will see Canelo almost demanding the
Hmm.
rematch. He hasn't got the Bivol rematch, which rightly so, for in my opinion, there's no need for it. And again, if Crawford's convincing, I don't think there's a need for it again either. Obviously, it does the numbers. We'd all watch it. It's a great fight, but like say from both fights' perspectives, I think Crawford doesn't wouldn't and not necessarily wouldn't entertain it, but why would he need to type of thing.
Hmm.
Canelo's legacy is set in the sport, Ra. He's been a professional for, he's what, 35, as you say, he's been a professional for 20 years. It's ridiculous. He's fought some of the sport's greatest names. He fought Mayweather when he was young. Some people say had that fight been 5 or 6 years later, could have been a different outcome. So we know Canelo's legacy's set in the sport. He will go down as a pound for pound great. Should Terence Crawford win this fight, Ra, what does it do for his legacy and his status? Does it make him a pound for pound great? Would it throw him into potentially the top 10 in the sport's history? What do you think a win over Canelo does for Terence Crawford's legacy?
I think top 10 of all time. I think I think that's a stretch, but of the modern era, if we're going to say 20 years is an era,
Mhm.
as you said, that's about the limit of a pro career. If you're using someone like Canelo as an example, um, you'd have a very strong argument to be the number one.
Mhm.
That'd be three undisputed cha champion at three undisputed weights. And the fact that he jumped two divisions and beat someone who himself is considered one of the greats. So, although Crawford's resume overall isn't full of exceptional opponents, that achievement alone, I think, will cast a huge shadow over others. So, he'll certainly, I think, be catapulted to the number one pound for pound at the moment. Uh, and I think even Usyk's wins against heavyweights can't really match that because none of the heavyweights were as accomplished as Canelo. So yeah, I would say he'd be considered possibly the greatest of the era of a win over Canelo.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. I think for Crawford, he was always underrated until that Errol Spence fight, where coming out party is the wrong type of description. But along those lines, I think that's when people started to finally give him the respect and the credit that he deserves. Now Canelo would be the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. It cements his legacy. It cements his resume, and he will go down in the history of the sport. I think, like you say, top 10 is definitely a stretch, but he's definitely in the conversation for the era. But I'm sure there will be definitely a few people the other side of the pond that will be having Terence Crawford as maybe even in the top five should he beat Canelo with that American versus Mexican rivalry. But we need to see what happens on fight night first. Let us know down below in the comments, guys. Do you agree with me and Ra? Do you think Terence Crawford can get the job done, or is Canelo just going to be too big? How will we find out? We will soon see. Will it be Canelo's size or will it be Crawford's skill set? As always, let us know down below in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Ra, thank you so much for your time. And once again, I cannot wait to watch this fight.